everybody, my name is Carline, welcome back to another video. Today, in this one, I'll be doing another tier list video, and in this one, I'll be doing a tier list on the board breakers in Yu-Gi-Oh! Post Cyberstorm. Access, yes, I think board breakers are still going to be very popular in this next coming format. I know hand traps are coming more and more back into the game, thanks to something like Super Heavy and Purely being able to run a lot. But, you know, going game 2 and game 3, I feel like the board breakers will still come up, even some in the main deck as well. So yeah, without further ado, let's get, actually, I got one more caveat. I don't know if this is going to be released before or after the ban list. It depends on whenever the fuck they decide to release the ban list. But even that, I think things shouldn't change enough where I need to re-record this video. If it does, then you won't be seeing this part of the video. But yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into the video, shall we? So we're going to go ahead and start off with Dark Ruler No More. In this format, I think it's either it's in very good or good. I think it's a really good board breaker in this format, especially with something like Super Heavy Samurai being in this format as well, setting up a huge board, being able to Dark Ruler them to make sure you can do your plays is going to be really good. Still hits the cast matchup pretty well, hitting their Rise Heart and the, whatever they have left on the field as well is pretty good. The only matchup this doesn't really matter against is something against purely against like the one Noir. Again, Noir is going to be unaffected by Dark Ruler No More, so there really is no point for that. But I think in every other matchup, I think Dark Ruler will be able to come up in that situation. So yeah, I think it's a really good board breaker in this format. Lava Golem. We're gonna put this in, I'm going to put it in good for now. This might change to decent depending on where I put other things at. But the reason why Lava Golem is good, it hits 2 monsters on your opponent's field, especially if I'm looking at something like Super Heavy Samurai, being able to set up a lot. The only problem with Golem is it does waste your normal summon. The only deck right now that's not caring about its normal summon is Castria. I think Soups can maybe play without their normal summon, but I think they would want to play with their normal summon. So, again, that's something. Again, Purely can play it as well because they all have their quick play spells to be able to special summon as well. So it is very good in this meta. I just, again, something like Purely or even Castria, if they just set up either on the Noir by itself or the Rise Heart by itself, then again, Golem is doing nothing. So this is a card that can be played around in certain decks, but I think it's still very decent in this format if you have the room and don't need your normal summon in your deck. Harpy's Feather Duster is, in this format, is going to be in, I don't want to put it in mediocre, because Feather Duster is very good, but there's not really that many back row decks. I think the only back row deck you can think of is Trap Trick and Labyrinth, and Trap Trick has an in-archetype way to protect. Against Labyrinth, again, Labyrinth is seeing less and less play going through this meta, so I'm going to actually put it in mediocre. I think the more we go in, I probably put it in the bottom of decent, just because the Feather Duster is an insane card. But Feather Duster against the probably top 3 decks in this format does literally nothing. So I'm just going to put it in mediocre for now. It doesn't say the card is bad, though. The card is insane. It's just the meta right now doesn't really apply where Feather Duster is going to be used a lot. The Kaijus. I'm going to put all the Kaijus in one spot. I think the Kaijus are very good this format. I think it's going to be above Golem. Now, against Super Heavy Samurai, one Kaiju by itself probably will not do enough to break their board. But against like the Purely matchup or the Castria matchup, you know, hitting the Arise Heart is going to be fucking insane for you. Hitting the Noir basically just wins you the game on the spot. So Kaijus, I think, are going to be very, very good this format. Again, it depends the more we go into this format and depending on the ban list as well, if this stays like that. But I think the Kaijus are very, very good this format. Something you can worth playing in either your main or side deck. Evenly matched. We're going to put evenly matched in decent. I know, probably shouldn't do that. But the reason why I'm putting this in decent is because against the Purely and Castria matchup, again, that doesn't really hurt them that much because they're just going to keep their unaffected guy. If you're playing Purely, you're just going to keep the Noir. If you're playing the Castria matchup, they're just going to keep the Rise Heart, and they can still do a lot with that. So evenly against those, don't really do anything. Against Soups, they're ending on Omni Negate, so that's going to be really hard to force an evenly match through an Omni Negate. against something like Branded, they're probably just going to put a fucking gimmick puppet on your field before you even have a chance to evenly match. So that's probably not going to help you in the long run anyway. So I'm going to put it in decent for now. Again, it's a very insane board breaker, especially in the last format. But now that we're getting Omni Gates back, and most decks only need one monster to keep on the field for them to still be able to play, I think we're just going to put this in decent for now. Forbidden Droplet. I fucking love this card, but we're going to put this in mediocre. Again, against the Castria matchup, it is fucking just garbage because the Rise Heart just turns off Droplet. But against any other matchup, again, the Purely matchup, I bring up that a lot because the Noir is unaffected, so that doesn't really do anything against that. But against the Soups, I mean, you get to Omni negate one of their fields, that's pretty good. If you're playing the Super Heavy Samurai matchup, the Brandon matchup doesn't really do anything because they're just going to expulsion the guys. I think this is just, against Soups, it's like decent against Soups, but I think in every other matchup, you probably want to keep your hand. Again, another thing, this has to weigh something on your hand as well for hand advantage. So that comes into play as well. While Dark Ruler, you can just Dark Ruler and you get all their effects are negated. So we're going to put it in mediocre. Again, this is a very, very good card still. Just in this format, I just don't think it's that great to be playing. Dividing, I think this is Kurikara Divine Incarnate. I keep fucking up this name. It's a very good, very, very good. We're going to put this in good. We're going to put it above Golem. Ooh, it's a very, very good board breaker. The only thing you have to worry about with this is if they have something like Noir and they just never activate Noir, they're just going to keep it. So if you don't know what this card does, it gets to tribute monsters on the field that activated their effects this turn, and then in the end phase you get to Monster Reborn one of your opponent's graveyard as well. It's a very good card against something like Soups. If you just play through everything, they waste everything, you go Kurikara, tribute all their field, attack, and then end phase still like something like Baron in the graveyard. It's very insane in that thing. But against something like the Purely, if they're smart, if you're not going to threaten the Noir in any way, shape, or form, they're just never going to activate it and stuff like that. Against the Cash matchup, it comes up a lot as well because the Arise Heart is a mandatory effect as well. I think this is just a very good card in this meta. Ultimate Slayer. Probably mediocre, I would say. Again, if you're versing the Cash matchup, I think it has to send to graveyard, so it's pretty much turned off in that sense. Against every other matchup, just hitting one monster kind of sucks. You have to kind of have the extra deck to go with this as well, because this sends depending on what your extra deck is, and you probably want to play cards that actually do something in the graveyard as well. So I think you have to have the extra deck space to play Slayer. So right now it's not that great just because a lot of the extra decks in this format is pretty tight unless you're playing like Castria. I think the Castria is the only thing that really comes up where your extra deck isn't that tight. But I think this is probably just mediocre. Again, it's a fine card, but I think there's just better cards than it. Santa Claus, we're going to put this in decent. I think there's really only one deck that can play it, and it's called Exosister. Exosister only plays this because this can make a Zeus line, and that's it. In any other situation, you probably want to play a Kaiju, because if you can't get rid of this Santa Claus, then they're just going to get advantage off of it. While a Kaiju is just, well, a Kaiju does a lot. It doesn't really give them any advantage or something like that. So I think Santa Claus is indecent. We're going to put it probably above evenly matched. Again, it's just a Kaiju with a little bit more downside if you're not playing the Exosister. But if you're playing the Exosister, obviously this comes up to make a Zeus line. But that's about it. Sphere mode. We're going to put this in decent. I know it's probably the same situation as Golem, but at least Golem only needs 2 monsters. Sphere mode needs 3, so they kind of need to go off. So against something like the Exosister, not Exosister, I'm sorry, Purely and Castria matchup, very much dead. People can even play around this if you're playing Soups and the Soups know you have Sphere mode. They'll just end on 2 monsters, and probably 2 monsters is probably enough, especially if you have this dead card in hand. So we're going to keep this in decent. I think Golem is better than Sphere mode. Yeah, that's just my opinion on that. Triple Tactic Talent. We're going to put this in very good. I think Talent is fucking insane in this format. Obviously, if you're playing Super Heavy Samurai, you cannot play most of these board breakers like Dark Roller and Triple Tack. You can't play this. But if you can play Triple Tack, it's very insane because it's going first and going second option. There's a lot of hand traps coming back in this format. Triple Tack to Talons does punish that, especially in something like Droll and Lockbird. You just go Triple Tack, give me that hand. You play with a full hand advantage and still maybe can do some plays as well. I very, very much like the Triple Tack in this meta. Yeah, very good. I think it's one of the best in this format. Triple Tactic Thrusts. We're going to put this in good. Yeah, we're going to put it in good because just there's not that many things you can search off of it in this meta because a lot of people are playing kaijus and stuff like that. Like Evenly has fallen off, so you can't really get Evenly off Thrust anymore because Evenly ain't that great. You can get Dark Roller and Triple Tack off of it, which is very, very good, but I think those are really the only good 2 targets in this format. Again, if you're sideboarding into stuff as well, they can go first. You can play something like Deck Devastation or Deck Eradicator, or some Eradicator Epidemic Virus in this as a spot as well. Even like a Pointer of the Red Lotus can come up going first. Again, very good. I just don't think there's that many targets in this format for this. Just Dark Roller and Triple Tack are really the only things in this format that's a good target off Thrust. Lightning Storm, we're going to put this in mediocre. Same thing as Feather Duster. I think only using this as a back row hit kind of card, and Feather Duster does the same. This is at 3 though, so we're going to put it above Feather Duster, while Feather Duster is only at 1. Lightning Storm against on the monsters, people are just going to be playing around that a lot, especially if you're I keep saying Exo Sister. I do apologize. If you're playing the Purely matchup, I mean Noir is unaffected, so they don't really care. Your version Soups, I mean, they do have negation for this anyways. So, yeah, I think this is just a card that can be played around a lot in this format. I don't think this is really that good. Only good against back row, and I think back row is kind of falling off in this format. Enemy Controller. Probably mediocre. Honestly, I don't think it's that great of a card. You have to tribute one of your monsters to do something to do it. I don't think it's garbage. I think it's probably bottom of mediocre. It's close to garbage. Again, this is only way this comes up if you get something like Ibly locked, and that's about it. The Gimmick Puppet lock does literally nothing. If they Gimmick Puppet you, you're fucked anyways. Econ's not going to change the math on that. But it's only really good against Ibly, and that's about it. And Whirly Sprite is falling off as well. Book of Eclipse. This is also, I'm going to put this in garbage. Honestly, I think this is pretty bad. I think the only matchup this hits is fucking, is the Castria matchup. Obviously, the Castria is still the best deck right now, but I think there's just better options in like the Kaijus and stuff like that. So I'm going to put this in garbage. XYZ Encore. We're going to put it in the bottom of decent. I think, again, against the Purely and the Castria matchup, it does come up. But against really any other matchup, it's pretty bad. But against Cash, again, I mean, Cash is the best deck, and then Purely is becoming one of the best decks in the format as well. So we're going to put it in decent for now. But there's only 2 decks that really this card comes up against. Pankratops. We're going to put it in the... I don't want to put it in mediocre, man. Pank is really good. Like, Pank is really good. I really do like Pank. We're going to put it in the bottom of decent. Bottom of decent, I think that's the furthest I can put it up. I think we're going to put it in the bottom of decent. Again, against Soups, again, they're most likely going to have an Omni Negate anyways for this card. It's just a nice card to force an Omni Negate. And then against Cash, obviously, you can come up just to tribute the Arise Heart as well. But besides that, I think it's just decent. Herald of the Abyss. This is a card that can out the Purely Noir. But Purely can actually play around this now because they're just going to set a quick play spell. And then if you activate this, it'll just summon out a Purely from the deck and then just send that Purely to the graveyard instead. So in that case, I'm going to put it below XYZ Encore. I think XYZ Encore at least hits that. While with the Herald of the Abyss, I think they can play around it. This is really only for the Purely matchup. I mean, it can come up against other matchups as well, but I think a Kaiju does a lot more than that as well, especially since it's going to be negated as well. And then Book of Moon as our last card. I mean, I don't think Book of Moon is actually that bad. I'm going to put it in the top of mediocre. Again, I don't know. I'm going to put it in the top of mediocre, target a card, flip it face down. I think it's very, very good. Oh, I locked my cat in the closet there. But yeah, that is going to be my tier list. I think triple tack is really the only very good board breaker in this format. But besides that, I think that is it for my tier list. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, leave a like and subscribe for more content on the channel. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.